Welcome to a demographic version of What Have I Told You. Now, if you've looked at the world's countries and looked at some of the states here in the United States, for example, you will notice that a lot of them have what could be best called a dominant city. What if I told you that there's actually terminology for this? It's called a primate city, which means that it is a city that is so far ahead of the rest of the country or state in terms of its influence, power, and economic might that it towers over all others within the country, and usually in some cases the rest of them combined. Now I'm going to probably go to the most famous example I can think of here, and that is with the United Kingdom, specifically within England, and of course its primate city is London. London is probably the second most powerful economic city in the world, let alone, within its country. Now, London is kind of in a class of its own because it does have a strong second tier of cities. The United Kingdom does, Manchester, Liverpool, even places like Leeds and Bradford, that little metropolis of over, 1.5 million people itself. And of course, then within Scotland, you've got other cities such as Glasgow, which are in that second tier of cities, but none of them match up to the sheer scale and political power, particularly of London, which of course is the capital of the country and where the royal family resides in Buckingham Palace. So London is probably the most famous example of a primate city in the world. It is second in economic power, but the number one economic power in the world isn't a primate city of its own country. That, of course, being New York City. New York City, however, is a primate city of New York State. It's so far out in front of everybody else that it's not even close. There is not a good second tier that even comes close to New York City's power and might, even though its second tier of cities are all metro areas of over 1 million people. Buffalo, Rochester, and a little bit under 1 million is Syracuse. But they don't even have any political power whatsoever. The political power, of course, within New York State is in the capital city of Albany. But even at that, much of the New York State government has offices in New York City. So New York City is the primate city of New York State, but it's not the primate city of the United States as a whole, because the number two city in the United States is at least close enough to New York City to make it a run for it, that of course being Los Angeles. Now, Los Angeles is not a primate city of its own state because it has other cities that make a run for it as well, particularly the San Francisco Bay Area. And then right below that, you've got San Diego, and the state capital, of course, is Sacramento. So a lot of their economic and political power is spread amongst several cities, but as far as its economic powerful standing, Los Angeles would be the economic primate city of the state of California. But besides political one, that is, of course, Sacramento. And a lot of the economic might of California, of course, there are 4 other cities that have a piece of the pie, if you will. Now, I'm going to go to some other well-known states. Florida doesn't have a primate city. Florida has got, the Miami, South Florida Metroplex on the south end, but it's also got Tampa, St. Petersburg in the center of the state. The political seat of power, of course, is Tallahassee in the northern edge of the state, closer to the Panhandle. So it doesn't have a dominant city at all. Texas doesn't have a dominant city either, in that Texas is economically almost split between two very large metropolitan areas that have a lot of economic power and social influence. That, of course, being Houston in the southeast and the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in the north. And, of course, the political capital of Texas is Austin. And Austin has its own power base. has its own economic power base, basically the technological center of Texas, and its educational one too. So Texas is a split verdict as well. Now, I'm going to also tackle European countries at this point as well. We've already gotten through the UK. France has Paris. Paris is the primate city of France. Spain does not have a primate city. It is split between two different cities, one being a capital and the one also being a very strong number two. Of course, the capital city is Madrid, and the very strong number two is Barcelona, which itself has not only economic but a cultural power base, being the hub city of an area that is seeking independence, that being Catalonia. So that is Barcelona, Spain. Italy doesn't really have a primate city, but it doesn't have an overly dominant city, but it does have a good number one in Rome. But there are other cities within Italy that have a piece of the pie, if you will. Russia does not have a primate city at all. Capital is Moscow, but it has a very strong number two in St. Petersburg. Those are your two cities that have a lot of influence, particularly in the wake of the Ukraine war. Those are the cities that have so much of the political power base combined between them two that Putin will not recruit. General will not recruit soldiers or draft soldiers out of either of those two cities. So that's a split verdict there between Moscow and St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg, of course, it used to be known as Leningrad. And in world history, that name rings very clear. The Siege of Leningrad in World War II, which was conducted by the Nazi Wehrmacht. And Leningrad, of course, is a very, very beloved song by Billy Joel. So Russia does not have a primate city. However, the nearby Baltics, speaking of St. Petersburg, 2 of the 3 nearby Baltics do. Estonia has Tallinn, which is the population, political, and everything else economic capital of Estonia. And then Latvia's is even more dominant, and that's Riga. Riga has probably 60% of the population of the entire country. Within it, Riga having a population of about 800,000 within the Riga urban center. And then also the country only has about 1.4 million. So Riga is a primate city in every definition of the term. Lithuania is the exception. It's the outlier. Vilnius, of course, is the capital. It's not a primate city because there's a number 2 city that kind of nips right at its heels. That's Kaunas. Vilnius, of course, has a population of just under 1 million, but Kaunas has a population of about 400,000. And it carries some weight of its own. So Lithuania doesn't quite have a primate city, but it's close. Now, speaking of the Ukraine war, let's talk about Ukraine real quick here. Yes, Ukraine does have a primate city in the form of Kyiv. The political capital, the population capital, and the economic center of the country. There is no great number 2 city within Ukraine. Now let's move a little bit further east. Let's move to Georgia. Georgia does have a primate city, Tbilisi, with probably over half the population of the entire country, and it doesn't really have a number 2 city that anybody can really think of or anything comes off the top of their head. Excuse me. So that's Georgia. China, of course, does not have a primate city. China is got its economic might and power political capital split between several cities. The political capital, of course, is Beijing, but Shanghai is probably economically stronger than Beijing. It's where a lot of the Chinese economic boom originated in Shanghai. And they're both close in population. They're two of the 10 largest cities in the world. Shanghai and Beijing. Of course, the People's Republic of China also controls Hong Kong, which makes a great case for number 3 city. So no, China does not have a primate city. Russia doesn't have a primate city. The country between the two, wedged between the two, does have one, and that is Mongolia, with 80% of the population of all of Mongolia living in one city, Ulaanbaatar. In the geographical center of the country, it's the political capital. It's really the only place where any real economic activity within Mongolia occurs. The rest of the country is very much an open desert, specifically the Gobi Desert. So Mongolia has Ulaanbaatar. Japan does not have a primate city, although it has a clear number 1 in Tokyo. But of course, Tokyo has, there's also a 3-city conurbation further southwest on Honshu Island, which is Kobe, Osaka, excuse me, and Kyoto. Kobe, Kyoto, and Osaka. They share an airport in the Sea of Japan that's built on an artificial island called Kansai International Airport. It is the joint urban transport hub for all 3 cities, and it's basically considered a conurbation because they all border each other. It's a bit of a megalopolis. A megalopolis could be another subject for another video and another day, but Japan does not have a true primate city. Tokyo is kind of the dominant city within its own metropolitan area, but even its number 2 metro city, it would be a major city almost anywhere else, and that, of course, being Yokohama. Going off the coastline and going into Taiwan, yes, Taiwan does have a primate city. It's Taipei. Taipei contains almost everything activity-wise within the nation of Taiwan. Going south, the Philippines, it's got Manila. Even though the capital is Quezon City is part of Metro Manila. So Metro Manila is a primate city. It has all of the economic activity, almost all of the economic transportation, and even military activity for the Philippines. Thailand, Bangkok. That one was easy. I'm going to go to another country here that's trying to change theirs. It has historically had one dominant primate city, but they artificially created a second city in order to try to reverse that situation for reasons that are a little bit, sketch. Of course, I'm talking about Myanmar, formerly known as Burma. Its historical primate city is Yangon, formerly known as Rangoon. However, Yangon is on the coastline, and given that they are run by a military juntas can be kind of paranoid. So, in this paranoia, they went about 300 miles inland and built a new capital city entirely from scratch with the intention of removing primate status from Yangon. The city, of course, is Naypyidaw. And Naypyidaw is an interesting case because it has a lot of infrastructure, broad roads with nobody on them. The official population of Naypyidaw is about 900,000, but according to satellites, it's probably a fraction of that. They can't get anybody to move to new government quarters in Naypyidaw from Yangon. Even though, despite the fact that electricity runs 24/7 in Naypyidaw, but there are regular rolling outages in Yangon. old habits die hard. And so Yangon is still easily the largest city in Burma or Myanmar. We're going to swing a little bit further west here. India does not have a primate city. India has a capital city, which is New Delhi, which is part of the metropolitan Delhi-New Delhi megalopolis. Mumbai is their economically dominant city, even absent political capital. So India is split. And of course, another economic powerhouse is Bangalore. So India is all over the place, but clearly no primate or dominant city. Moving towards Egypt. Egypt is interesting. It does have a primate city at the moment in the form of Cairo. However, with resources being stripped and being reduced in Cairo, particularly water with the Nile River, they are building a new capital city which will replace it and probably split the primate status in current day Cairo between it and the new capital city, which is as of now unnamed. So Egypt has a primate city, but they are attempting to split it. In the African continent, Ethiopia is pretty obvious, Addis Ababa, the political and economic capital of the entire country for sure. I don't think there's much to be said about the countries west of Egypt, mainly because they're not doing as well at the moment. The one country that is economically decent off is Morocco, but even that one doesn't have a primate city or dominant city. Its capital is Rabat. Its largest and economic hub is Casablanca. So Morocco does not have a primate city either. We've almost come all the way around now because Morocco is split by the Strait of Gibraltar from Spain. So we've kind of come all the way around. Going to the southern tip of Africa, South Africa officially does not have a primate city, and they've clearly designated this because it has 3 capital cities. Its executive capital is Pretoria. Its judicial capital is a city nearby called Bloemfontein. And its legislative capital is Cape Town. Itself a 4 million person metropolitan area. And Pretoria having about a couple million. Bloemfontein having a few 100,000. But none of those are the largest metropolitan area. None of those are the economic capital of the country. That, of course, as you all would know, is Johannesburg. Johannesburg has undergone some rather troubling times. Downtown Johannesburg is no longer the economic hub of South Africa. That role has been split between several different boroughs or districts within the Johannesburg metropolitan area. Sandton to the north is one of them, which is kind of halfway between downtown Johannesburg and Pretoria. So South Africa's really a mixed bag. You know, they almost will never have a primate city. South America, no country with a primate city, except for possibly one. That country is Chile. and that city is Santiago. Chile's really interesting because it's so geographically long, north-south, but so narrow east-west. And so for one city to be dominant isn't that difficult? So Santiago is that one in Chile. Obviously with Brazil, you're split between Sao Paulo and Brasilia, the capital. With Argentina, of course, you're split between Buenos Aires and Rio de Janeiro. That's an even split. No primate city. I'm going to slip north here a little bit. Colombia clearly doesn't have a primate city split between Bogota and Medellin. Venezuela has a primate city of a very weak country, and that, of course, being Caracas. Mexico does have a primate city, and that's, of course, Mexico City. The capital and economic city of the whole country of Mexico. We've kind of gone all the way around the world at this point. And so, since we're back in North America right now, I'm going to continue on by going through Canada's provinces. Out of the Canadian provinces themselves, only one has what could be called a primate city. And this one I'm having a hard time calling it. But I'm talking about Quebec and Montreal, which of course is the cultural, economic, and every other center of the Quebec subnation, if you will, a province that has yearned for independence for a long period of time, with its own political party elected to try to affect that. But the capital, of course, is Quebec City, which is not a small town by any means. But Montreal is just so dominant in every other realm. The same case could be made for Ontario, but Ontario is a little different because its capital, of course, is Toronto, but the national capital is Ottawa. Ottawa is not a small town either. It's a major league sports city. It's the capital of the nation. So I'm not ready to call Toronto a primate city. There's actually one province in the whole country that has a true primate city, and that is Manitoba, and of course Winnipeg. Winnipeg contains about 75% of the population of the entire province. The entire province is barely over 1 million. Greater Winnipeg has about 800,000. So almost everybody lives in Winnipeg. The second largest city in Manitoba has all of 40,000 people, that being Brandon, which is about a couple hundred miles west of Winnipeg. Also on the Trans-Canada Highway. Going next door, Saskatchewan does not have a primate city. Regina is the second largest city, but Saskatoon, further north, is the capital and the largest city. It's such that the Major League Canadian football team is in Regina, but it takes on the name the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And it clearly represents the entire province and not just the city of Regina. And so Alberta is obviously split. Capital city is Edmonton. Further south is the metro area of Calgary. Both are close to the same size. And both have economic hubs, particularly based on the petroleum industry. British Columbia does have a dominant metropolitan area, but it has a second smaller metro area that is the political capital and contains a lot of cachet on its own. Of course, the dominant metro is Vancouver, but the political capital and the city of its own power base is Victoria. Now, I'm going to move into the territories. The territories, which don't have full provincial status, all have primate cities. The Yukon has Whitehorse. Whitehorse contains 3/4 of the population of all of the Yukon. No other town is even remotely close. And of course, Whitehorse is the territorial capital. Northwest Territories has Yellowknife. Similar setup. Has about half the population of all of the NWT. Political capital, parliamentary house. Then we have Nunavut to the east. Iqaluit does not have the exact high population, but it's the only city close to its size within Nunavut. Nunavut has a population of about 32,000. Iqaluit has a population of about 9,000. But again, no single settlement comes close in size to Iqaluit, which of course has the legislative house. It has the Capitol building and every government facility for the territory imaginable. So, all three territories have primate cities, but only one province truly has one, that being Manitoba. Now, for the remote U.S. states that are not in the lower 48, Alaska's primate city, of course, is Anchorage, even though the political capital is further down the peninsula in the form of Juneau. But nobody comes close in influence or power in Alaska to Anchorage, which has about 2/3 of the state's population. The state has 700,000 and shrinking. Anchorage has about 400,000 and shrinking as well. Now, Hawaii is an interesting case because Hawaii's primate city is technically not a city. That is Honolulu, and everybody thinks of Honolulu when they think of Hawaii as its urban center. But technically, it's the city and county of Honolulu, which includes all of Oahu. The entire island is the city. And so it's not really so much a primate city as it is a primate island, in that almost everything for Hawaii is represented in Oahu. Population 1.1 million. The capital, really only urban center, with downtown Honolulu. If the urban center of Honolulu proper itself did not encapsulate the entire island, it would have a population of about 400,000. It would still be the primate city, because the second biggest city is Hilo on the big island of Hawaii, population of about 40,000. They're not anywhere near the ballpark. So there's your answer. There's many of the world's primate cities. I could go through the entire world, but I don't really feel like going through all the time here tonight. Go research it for yourself. Drop it in the comments if there's any corrections. I can think of a couple that I'm gonna go through back on right now. I'm just not gonna do it. I'll leave that up to you. Drop it in the comment section if you have any corrections, or if there's any ones that I didn't think of or didn't share with you in this video. Please feel free to let me know. So anyway, that's it. The next subject is going to be another demographic one. And it's simply going to be, what if I told you that Houston is not one city, but it's 10? Stay tuned. That one will be posted tomorrow. So anyway, guys, you folks have a fantastic night. Peace out, homies.